have this Eliminator 300 watt DC to AC power inverter, and 10% of the time when it don't come on for some unknown reason, you know, you go to turn the inverter on and no green light, it does not come on, there's no power at the outlets. Well, one thing I want to tell you is to check before you just get too carried away in thought and think maybe it's garbage or, you know, something along those lines. Remove the 4 screws that hold this on. I already did that to speed up the video a little bit. And there should be enough room that you can actually remove this. Now obviously this is not hooked up to anything, okay, so you want to have it free, not hooked up to anything, so there's no possible risk that you can get a little zap or a shock or a surprise. And you can separate this enough that you can actually test out the switch. 10% of the time, the only thing that goes bad is this switch. Now, to make the terms easy to understand what a switch does, a switch is basically joining the 2 wires together that feed and power up this whole inverter. And then when you switch it off, again, in easy language, it's separating those 2 wires, which breaks it. And that stops feeding the inverter power. So you check that switch by simply removing this cover, and most inverters are roughly the same. They all have a cover in the front and in the back, and also at the bottom, which this bottom plate would actually, you undo this one and this bottom plate would slide out. But there's no need to go that far just to test out the switch. See, I'm trying to do this with one hand, but you can get enough leverage in here, you have enough room that you can test out that switch. And then once you know if your switch is good or bad, and you can use just a multimeter to test that out. It's real simple. And this is a real silly way to do it, but realistically, all you have to do to test the switch is jump across those 2 terminals here, these 2 posts you see. Take a little piece of wire or something and short it out. And if your inverter comes on, then you know your switch is bad. If you don't know how to use a multimeter and stuff like that, there's a real easy way of doing it. But I recommend using a multimeter. Check it with an ohms reading. But some people don't know how to do that, and that's one way you can bypass that. Even if you don't have a meter, you can still test out the switch. 10% of the time, whoever uses inverters and they don't go on, 10% of the time it's the switch. It could even be 20% of the time, but 10% of the time I'm in safe zone. So if you flick it on and you get no little light coming on, it could be the LED light indicating the green one. It could be burnt out itself. So, but if you have no AC power coming from these 2 receptacles, then it could be the switch. And if it's not in the switch, well, then it's internal. It's inside somewhere. Then you'd have to further investigate, or bring it to someone else so they can further investigate it, or simply buy another one and recycle the old one. It's aluminum. Maybe 2 pounds. It's worth $1 in weight. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you have not, and thank you for those that have.